How's it going, guys? Today we'll do a Java builder pattern. Okay, this is a common pattern that you see in the Java world. So let's go over what it is, why, how, and some memorization techniques. Okay, so what is the builder pattern? So this is part of a creational pattern category among the patterns. So it's creating objects, right? The definition really is it avoids creating complex constructors. Okay, so we'll use this pattern when we want to avoid really complex constructors with a lot of different parameters. And it allows you to build an object or create an object with as little or as many fields as you want. So why would we want to use a builder? Okay, so like I just said, we want to avoid this problem here with this piece of code. So as you can see here, a number of different parameters. And I kind of tweaked this example from the Java design patterns open source repository, so they have a good example there. Also, flexibility for the client to create an object with any number of fields that they want. So maybe they only want profession and name. They don't want the rest of those. So in the old way, this way right here, you'd have to create another constructor with just those two parameters, right? So then you'd have a bunch of different constructors that you'd create. Okay, so we'll get into an example to look at it more. Cool, so how do we make a builder? So I'm gonna jump over to the code and go through some examples and hopefully it'll make sense for you. Okay, so I'm over here in the code, and this is the client code, and I have a few different examples here. So we're using that example I just showed in the slides with profession, name, and hair color, right? And we're creating different types of heroes. So I got this example from that Java design patterns open source project. So they use this concept of a hero, and they're basically creating this hero with different parameters. Okay, so let me first show you the bad hero. I'm naming it bad hero because it has a lot of different fields in the parameter here for the constructor. So this is a typical way you do it in like native stock Java, right? Creating a constructor with a bunch of different parameters, and then you'd set all these parameters in private fields, and then away you go. Okay, so this is problematic because there's so many things we have to know from the client side. We have to pass all these in, and it's very strict too, right? What if I just want to pass profession and name and hair type, and I don't want to pass these ones? I'd have to pass null, which is a little bit, hard to read when you're creating a hero in this case. So we don't want to do that. And then you'd have to create a number of different constructors, like I said. So this is the typical way you do it. And I have this here in the client, right? This is how you would do it. So I'd do bad hero, new bad hero, and then I'd pass the different constructor parameters in here, okay? And this works, right? It works fine. And then we print it out here, and I'll run it here at the end. But let's go to the builder pattern. So how can the builder pattern help us with this problem? Okay, so I have another class here called good hero that I've created, and good hero has all the same parameters here, right? We have these parameters, or I guess I should say fields, that are associated with this object. And we do something a little bit different here. So in the constructor, there's actually a constructor that is a private constructor, so only inside this class can it be constructed, and it is a final class at the end of the day when it gets constructed. Okay, so we pass in a builder. So what's a builder? We have a static class here called builder, and a builder, in this case, we want to construct it with profession and name as the initial constructor for this builder, and then because those are going to be required. Okay, so maybe this hero in this game or whatever, it needs to have a profession, it needs to have a name. These other parameters are optional. Okay, and then there's other parameters here, like with hair type, with hair color, with armor. And the unique thing here is that it returns this at the end of each of these kind of quote-unquote setters. Okay, and that'll return back the builder, which means it can chain these methods together to kind of construct the object as you go. Okay, so we'll see an example of that over here in the client. So here I am using the good hero. Okay, so I had good hero equals new good hero builder, and then you see here those two first parameters that are required. And then I say, hey, I actually want to pass in hair color. I pass in hair color here, And if I look at the return type here, it is a builder. And then I do this build method right here at the end to actually construct my good hero. So this is where it actually calls new, if you were wondering. So it takes all the things that were added to it, and then those are all bundled inside this, and then it gets returned back here to good hero variable. All right, and then let's look at one last example of the builder, and this is a very clean way of doing it if you're using Java and you're using the Lombok dependency. Okay, so I have the Lombok dependency declared here. Lombok dependency, what it does is you can just declare an annotation here at the top, and it'll build a builder object and all those classes that I showed you for you kind of behind the scenes. So you don't have to write that code by hand, and it does it in a really neat fashion, easy to understand. Okay, so I just annotate that there, and then when my code compiles, it'll create all the code that it needs for the builders, but I don't have to see that as the developer. I can just use it in my application. Okay, so this here, same thing. We have a builder, and then we can add profession, we can add name, and then also I guess we wanted to add a hair color, right? We add hair color there. Okay. And then all three of these examples should be the same thing, but as you can see with the builder, we're able to just add profession and name and hair color if we want, and then all the other ones will be null, or they'll be default values if you want to do that as well. So you can see how much easier it is for the builder pattern compared to passing all of these parameters. And then as you add new fields in the future, right, you don't have to add it to the constructor. You can just add a method, and then you could add another chained method here, right, to be able to add to it. So very simple that way. So hopefully that made sense. Let me run this real quick just so you can see it. So this will do the bad hero. Okay, then we have null for those three fields. We have good hero here, and then we have good hero with Lombok. So all the same result, but the builder pattern is much superior in the way that it's concise and flexible for any changes in the future. All right, so hopefully that made sense for how to make a builder. So let's look at memorizing the builder pattern. So we want this to stick in your head, right? So when you're actually creating code, how can I come up with the builder pattern real time when I'm actually coding and not have to research it? Okay, so when you have an object that has optional fields when constructing, then a builder pattern is really good. So if you need all of the parameters, then maybe a constructor probably makes sense. But if the constructor starts getting too big, too complex with many parameters, then you're going to want to have the builder pattern because it makes it more concise and more flexible in the future. Okay, and then third point here, remember to use Lombok. It's a huge benefit. At builder is your friend in this case, so you don't have to write all of that code that I first went through on that second example with the builder class, the static class. Lombok does that all for you, and you won't have any bugs when you create your builder because it's all based on a well-defined template that is generated at compile time. So just remember to use the builder and not this example down here, right? So don't use the bad hero, be the good hero. Cool, well, that's it for the builder pattern tutorial here. I hope you liked the video, and I'll be posting more about software engineering and leadership as we go forward. So thanks a lot.